Founder-led brands are 2 to 3 times more powerful in building the familiarity score than faceless brands. A person's face is a trust-building asset, right? When you are able to see somebody's face, it's easier to trust them.
In the past, product quality, whether it's good or bad, you buy, you try, you test it, and then you have a conclusion. But now it's the other way around. You build the brand, people form a perception first, then they try the product, and then they conclude later.
For emotional connection to be built, right? One thing that we can do is define who the villain is. What are you for and against? When you have a very clear villain, your narrative becomes clearer. So you will know what you need to talk about and what is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right? When you have this defined villain.
Virality is almost like a double-edged sword. It might position your brand in the wrong way, or you might be famous for the wrong reasons, let's just say, right?
Virality is not the enemy. Virality can work really well, but you do need that layer of memory and intent, right, to work for your business.
You shouldn't chase virality, or the wrong question to ask is, how do I go viral? Yeah, is that how you think of it?
The main format that we specialize in is
Welcome to another episode of
Man on a Mission Show.
Today we are starting our year fresh in 2026 with a very special guest on board. Someone that have been making the waves of social media, in particular on Instagram.
Instagram celebrity at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know her from another setting, right? A very humble lady, someone who has helped multiple brands reach their own celebrity status as well, purely through organic storytelling.
Yes, and I'm super excited because from our background, we come from a paid ads background, and then of course we shifted also with some podcasts.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how we see all of that in a marketing mix.
Yeah. So today we'll go through 3 themes, right? The first is all about virality, right? This huge buzz around virality. Can we actually predict the Instagram algorithm?
Yes, and does that translate into actual value?
Yeah. The second theme we're going through is founder brands versus faceless brand, right? What are the pros and cons of both, right? What will it work best for your brand? And the last is...
Well, we are going to be talking about my favorite topic, which is organic content versus paid content.
Yes. Is it a versus situation? Is
Yeah.
it one is better than the other? Or what should you consider in your marketing strategy?
That's right.
Yeah. Without further ado, let's welcome...
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I'm on a mission to help brands build their story arcs to become super profitable.
Michelle!
Yay.
Hi, nice, really great to be here.
Yeah. So Michelle, maybe you can give an introduction to the audience. Who you are, what's your IG handle, right? And what do you do?
All right. Hi, I'm Michelle. I am the chief storyteller and the founder of the Story Arc. So I started growth marketing about 10 years ago. And along the way, I kept seeing the same signals with the work that we were doing and decided that, this is the route that we would basically go all into.
Wow.
Which is storytelling and founder-led storytelling, story-led content.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We want to go deeper into this idea of growth marketing, right? And
Yeah.
how do you land it on storytelling being the one for you, right? So maybe we wind back time a bit. What were you doing in the growth marketing space? What is growth marketing?
Okay. So our main thing was that we were coming into businesses and plugging in different systems so that we can help them grow their top line revenue. So be it whether it's email marketing, whether it's paid ads, whether it's content, basically creating the entire ecosystem, plug it in what they're doing and help them make more money. So we found storytelling along the way and we used it as one of the levers that help businesses grow. So it was part of the entire framework. What we realized was just that level alone gave so much impact and leverage for a brand that it was such a strong signal for me, the business, to just focus on storytelling alone.
Reminds me of the Pareto principle,
Yes.
the 20-80 rule, right?
Yeah.
So would you say when you talk about this word lever, would you say that storytelling is the 20-80?
Yeah, 100%. So 20%, I don't know the exact percentage, but it seems like it was 20% of the effort that were making up for probably even maybe 80% of the results.
Yeah. Amazing. So yeah, someone who has a background doing all sorts of marketing before, right? Which is what founders and business owners like to learn more of, because most of them have business. They have marketing systems as well if they are seasoned enough.
Yeah.
And usually the thinking process with choosing the right marketing strategy is, which platform should I use? Which approach should I use? Should I go into email marketing? Should I go into paid ads? Should I go into organic? Right? What should I do? Right. So could you share a little bit about that thinking process that you had that landed you on storytelling?
I've developed this framework called the ARC framework. This helps us we use this as a diagnostic tool so that we can determine any one point of the business what they should be working on. So there are three main aspects of this, which is number one, the familiarity, the memory, and the intent. So depending on how you score between all these three, this will determine what you need to focus on. So I can deep dive into what each of these mean. So,
Okay. Maybe use my brand as example.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole idea is that familiarity is often related to virality, right? So this is when you get a spike of attention, spike of familiarity. So, but the one thing that is really important when we are using content or when we are actually driving anything that we're doing for our brand is to look at the foundations. So the foundations of memory and intent. So if we don't have really strong foundations in either of these two, when you have that virality, it's not going to work in your favor and it's not going to convert in what you want, which is sales revenue, right? So depending on where you are at the business, we want to see, okay, are you at a stage where you really have strong foundations of memory and intent, and then you can focus more on the virality aspect, getting more views, getting more impressions.
Yeah.
But if you're not at the stage yet, then we want to focus on building the foundations, building that trust, giving a people to connect emotionally with you, your brand, and then building that competence in the content or whatever formats that you're working on.
Let's talk about a bit deeper about familiarity, right? So one of your very viral videos that a lot of people got to know you because of that video is the Presto Diaries one. Yeah. So when you approach Presto Diaries, right, where were they at the level of familiarity?
Presto itself, they are already somewhat familiar. They might not have very strong brand recall, but people, they have a physical presence in Singapore. So
Yeah.
I think that even before when we started working with them, they already had couple of stores, physical stores all throughout Singapore. So one of the largest dry cleaning chains. But in terms of that brand recall, when people might have seen them, but they might not actually remember their name or what their logo looks like, but just a vague recollection, oh yeah, there is this dry cleaner that kind of looks something like that, right? So what we did was when we came in, we made their brand stronger by connecting the memory and intent with the stories that we tell. So stories are actually a great way to build all three of these levels together. So we have the familiarity, the memory, and the intent, where we not just get people to remember the brand name, but we get them to remember the brand name to the emotions that we share through the stories. And when we build that emotional connection, the brand recall is so much higher.
Yeah, maybe you can share examples of the emotional resonance. Yeah, what kind of emotional resonance? And when I hear this emotional resonance,
Yeah.
I remember the movie Inside Out. You know, where they have
Yeah.
little characters
Yeah.
representing different emotions.
Emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at season 1, it was the basic emotion, happy, sad,
Yeah.
jealousy. Then at season 2, they start to have a little bit more complexity in the emotional
With
layer,
the
right?
grandma coming out.
Yeah, nostalgia grandma. I love nostalgia grandma.
I love that movie.
Yeah, so when you say emotional resonance, particularly in the case of Presto Diaries, what was that emotional factor?
For Presto, we did not want to just talk about dry cleaning. Dry cleaning is the business. What we wanted to do to build that emotional resonance is to share about the people, share about the founding story, share about the founders, how he took over the business. So this is a second generation business. He took over his parents' business and he had all these points in his life where there was uncertainty. He left a very high paying, stable tech job to do this, and along the way, like he deals with all these different things that you might not necessarily know if you're not a second generation business owner. The tension between generations, trying to build a legacy, putting in the work where you know that there is that burden on you and you have to take it to the next level. So what we really wanted to do was find and tell his point of view of how he took over and the real like vulnerable bits of what was challenging about it.
So I want to ask, because it's almost always at this point in time, right? Somebody will say, but me as a founder, right? I don't have these stories. I don't have this high, this low. I'm not a second gen. I didn't inherit the business. I've kind of just fall into it, and then I found that it was kind of making money, maybe, or I could make a living out of it. So I just continued. And what do I do? So is it the emotional resonance that you're going for first? Like, you find the emotions that you want to connect with first, then you find the stories? Or do you build the stories or go and dig the stories, then go for the emotional resonance?
So I would say it starts with the story that you want to tell, right? So that everything that we are doing with the content, the storytelling content, we have to show up with something to say. And we find that thing that we want to share, and then we decide, okay, which are the emotional points and how do we want our audience to feel when they see something like that? Do we want them to feel seen? Do we want them to be inspired? Do we want them to take action? What is the takeaway of the video that we want the audience to have? So once we have that story, then we can decide on what that looks like. So I would say, like, just just being an entrepreneur, or not even maybe not even being an entrepreneur, but anyone that has taken or make decisions that are unconventional, right? Their lived experience is so rich that we can pull those stories out. So the question is really not whether you have stories to tell, but whether you have the skill sets to know how to pull those points out and create stories out of them that people can't forget.
Oh, wow, that's such a great point.
Yeah. So what's interesting, right? Because to a lot of business owners, virality is a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you have seen some challenge from bosses online where the social media manager is doing the post, and then they'll say, my boss challenged me to reach a 2M follower this month. Let's see if I make it, right? So
Yeah.
it feels like in the market, this virality is a lottery. Yeah, so how they deal with it is that you do as many videos as possible, and hopefully you'll hit the lottery, right? You win the grand prize, right? But in the way that you put it across, it seems like there's some sort of system of success, right? Where you're able to know what are the points to pick out in the story in order to hit that high level of emotional resonance and thereby getting that level of virality, right? Would you say that is the case that you are able to do it consistently for your clients? Would you agree that virality feels like lottery?
The way it does in general. It feels sometimes like it's a certain format. Like, in a sense lah, if you look online and all that, right, the thing that people discuss will be algorithm, because algorithmic shifts in the platform. So it feels like, suddenly carousel post is getting more viral. So
Yeah.
let's go carousel.
Yeah.
So random in the sense that it's out of control. Yeah. So in that sense, that feeling is always there. Like, this is not within something that I can either predict to a big extent, or it's out of my control because it's platform dependent,
Yeah.
algorithmic dependent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is no consistency in saying that a certain way of doing it, at least for most people, would at least get me to a certain extent. And also, there's one more thing which is debatable, is what exactly is considered viral.
Yeah.
Like, your definition of viral could be 100K. My definition of viral could be 10K. Someone else's definition is 1M. So how and where do we determine viral?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are two parts to this question, right? But the main question to you, Michelle, is do you have or do you say that you have a system of success to achieve virality for your brands?
So virality is mostly a distribution event, right? What it doesn't measure is the memory and the intent signals, which is incredibly important to see whether this piece of content is working for you. So what I'm trying to say here is that virality is not the enemy. Virality can work really well, but you do need that layer of memory and intent, right, to work for your business. The way that a lot of people are looking at this, they're asking the wrong questions about this, which is how do I get viral? Right? The main thing is, I mean, I keep seeing these patterns where people will go viral and then nothing happens. There is no sustained business impact.
Yeah.
Right? Because there isn't that layer of memory and intent.
How does memory intent manifest in the form of results? So do you see, or could you describe your observation for an account that have memory and intent versus an account that is just randomly going viral?
When you become viral and you don't have that layer of memory and intent, that at worst is dangerous, right? At best is wasted because you have that increase of exposure, but you haven't layered that base of, giving a reason for people to care, or giving an outlet for people to move that virality, the exposure into sales. So example would be the Fire Festival, right? They had, they worked with all these like influencers. Everybody was kind of like wondering what this was about, and people bought the tickets because it was FOMO, and then it basically crumbled because of it was basically a house of cards.
Yeah.
There's no substance over there.
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned house of cards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so virality could give you that level of attention. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
But where that attention is channeled to is a question mark.
Yeah.
So the way that you channel that attention is by creating this brand foundation where you talk about these two very important elements, which is the memory and the intent. And it feels the word that I think of is bingeable, right? Because for your case, when I look at all the clients that you work with, usually when they go viral, their follower count increases quite a bit. But there are cases where you could go viral, but the follower count doesn't really move the needle, right? Especially when you are dealing with more controversial topics. I'm sure everyone knows about, some controversial topics happening in Singapore right now. So there's a lot of creators that come out and talk about the issues, right? But when they come out and talk about the issues, there's no memory and intent layer to continue and channel their attention to follow this person. So they're just going around looking at the same story from different creators' mouth, right? So when you talk about the memory and intent, it feels like it manifests in the form of your retention for the next episode. When you post the next one, there's sustained views and the follower count.
Yeah.
Right? Would you say that these are two signals, or do you have other signals in mind?
Yeah, so follow count, I would say, is more of a signal metric than anything. I wouldn't say it's entirely like some people like to use follow count as a vanity metric, but I see it more as a signal metric.
Okay.
So two things that we look at when we see whether a video generally performs well. One is on the familiarity scale is the views, and then when it comes to memory, we use the followers that were gained out of that video as a memory signal. So it does two different things for us. So when people actually connect with you to a layer where they want to see more of what you will share later, then they will follow you. So that's when we can see where memory is built. Right. So maybe I can give you another example. So we use the Fire Festival as an example of when there is huge virality, but then there is no foundation down there. It's house of cards. On the other hand, when we look at Duolingo, right? So they have such an interesting way of building up their content. This unhinged owl coming to haunt you to do your Duolingo lessons, right?
Unhinged is the right word.
In a way, might not directly be related to the actual products, right? It's not, the content that they do is not here to teach you a language. But what it does, the association with the product is so strong that they can rely on using just virality as a way to lead back into user growth and user acquisition.
Yeah.
Because the product is already so strong and it already has that base of both memory and intent. So when we layer on that virality, it helps to grow their user base, right?
Yeah.
So they grew their monthly user from 40 million to more than 100 million in a fairly short time.
Insane.
Yeah.
So Duolingo is a very interesting case study that you brought up, right? Because it feels to me that Duolingo is that naggy teacher or that naggy mom reminding you to read your language textbook, right? So there is some memory associated to your younger childhood days where you have this authority figure that nags at you to keep up your cadence of studying,
Yeah.
right? And because of that, and you add the layer of the unhinged owl, right? So that becomes very cute and very viral, has viral potential.
Yeah.
And then of course the intent matches very well because the intent is to get you to use the app more.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a subtle way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that perhaps of the elements, in a sense, to me, intent stands out the most. I'm just recalling a case. Oh, well, actually, there were quite a few. But cases of where there are people with very high followers and they try to sell a t-shirt to the thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers
Yeah.
and sold basically one t-shirt.
Kind of those cases.
Yeah, or some of those where they tried to do a fan made of sorts, right? And they had to cancel because three people turned up. Right. So I think that in terms of memory, they definitely have, right? But what's the intent of people following you as well, and understanding what are their real outcomes that they're trying to get from being with you in that journey.
So that is also connected to the brand positioning and the brand, what the brand stands for. So if this random creator decided that, you know, they want to monetize their audience through selling merch and the connection has not been built, they might be remembered, but it may not have an emotional connection to the product that they're going to sell.
Yeah.
So that means that the intent signal is low because
Yeah.
like yes, you might have really high familiarity signals, but on the intent signal, like your people that don't buy from you.
Yeah. I feel like we're breaking virality down into science, right? And that's amazing because your clients that you have gone through so far, they have experienced a jump in their revenue, right? So it's not just virality. And that's why you started the conversation saying that you shouldn't chase virality, or the wrong question to ask is, how do I go viral? Rather, it's establish that brand foundation first, establish the memory, establish the intent that ties in back with your revenue. Then think about ways that you can leverage on the algorithm to go viral. Yeah, is that how you think of it?
Yeah. So the main format that we specialize in is storytelling.
Yeah.
But what we find is that storytelling actually helps us to build all three at the same time. It is a very rare format that allows us to build all three. Like if we just come back to Duolingo, right? You have this like dancing owl. that is really high on the familiarity signal. Because they already do have a separate channel to build that memory and intent layer. But for us, when we are working with brands that are fairly small, medium-sized brands, they don't have that layer that's really been built up like Duolingo, where they have very unique signature product that people know them for and have used them. So a lot of times people have never heard of this brand. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they sell, why they're the best. So doing storytelling allows us to hit all 3 points together.
Wow.
And that's why it's so effective.
Yeah.
Right.
Brilliant. Right. So if I were to, because I'm physics student, so I see things in formulas and frameworks. So it feels like there is a triangle where you talk about virality, you look at memory, you look at intent.
Yeah.
And storytelling happens to balance out the three. So far, the best for small business owners.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, a small business owner is not going to create a caricature right? Because there's a lot of money on IP, right? A lot of money on IP. You have a whole social media team to manage that. And at some point, they were doing mascot. Yeah, so that requires a very big team. But for small business owners, the storytelling approach is actually a lot more practical for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Let's talk about some pros and cons, right? Because I feel a lot of creators or business owners, their leading indicator is usually on virality, right? So if we were to peel the layer a little bit more, right, to see what actually is virality and what can we understand from this, then perhaps the chase of virality will not be as strong, right? So one question I have is, you know, you talk about the Fire Festival and the House of Cards. Right? I feel that virality is almost like a double-edged sword, right? Sometimes, yes, it boosts your business really well, but sometimes that boost might not be as ideal. It might position your brand in the wrong way, or you might be famous for the wrong reasons, let's just say, right? So have you seen founders addicted to virality, but then after they build that super massive following, it doesn't lead to any business revenue for them or lead to a wrong business positioning even?
Yeah. So I think this is common when, you know, you see those businesses doing like trends, you know, dancing videos and all that just to get the views, right? So you will have like a spike of these views and these impressions, and the spike of familiarity, but then it typically does not result into sustained business because yes, you get the views, but you have not built that connection with people. People have no reason to keep following you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the virality is bad, right? Virality can be so powerful, and when we've really built really strong emotional signals, really high intent to show people that, you know, this is products that is actually really high quality, the service is really good, and then you layer on that the virality, it basically works like putting gasoline on a fire, right? But it's the same thing if like there is no spark, or there is, it's a house of cards, you pour something over it, it's just gonna collapse.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of concept.
So if I were to understand correctly, you see virality like amplification.
Exactly. It's exactly amplification. So if you have something that's really working,
Yeah.
what virality does is just putting more eyeballs onto that. And it's super powerful, right? We want that kind of virality. But if we don't have that, it's very dangerous.
So you
Amazing.
amplify both good and bad, lah,
Yeah.
basically.
So for business owners hearing this, right, virality is really the amplifier, right? The gasoline to the fire, right? So you need to have a very strong foundation, a brand foundation,
Yeah.
building on the ideas of memory and intent, right? Before you pour on the gasoline and inflame
Yeah.
your
well,
brand, right?
look at it as multiplication. If you times zero of something, there is nothing still, lah.
Understanding and breaking down virality into science, understanding that virality is really just packaging, the surface. We haven't really deep dive into the substance of that, right? So for those who are interested to build your brand substance and brand positioning, right, please reach out to Michelle, right? Go to a class to find out how you can position your brand better so that you won't end up building something like a house of cards. So next topic we want to move into is this whole debate between founder brands and faceless brands.
I love this debate too.
Oh, why?
Well,
Yeah.
well, the thing is, even from a paid ads perspective, I personally do find it more powerful when the founder comes out to talk about their own products, their own services, and to share their values, for example. But a lot of times, the first one of the questions is, I'm very shy, can I not be on the camera?
Yeah.
Or I want to be, what do you call it? Underground.
Yeah.
So can don't expose me so much. Does it work if I don't appear? So I think it's very related because I mean in this case when we're talking about storytelling, a lot of it is also about the founder.
Yeah.
So the curiosity here and the first objection is, can I don't appear on the video? Yeah, so I see it from the both perspective of paid ads and also organic side
Yeah.
to see like how do you think about it from that perspective.
So you are pro founder.
I am pro founder and I have heard case studies where my client shared with me
Yeah.
about their own foray into non-founder versus them leading their own community and being the face.
I see.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting to see
Yeah.
that happen.
So maybe I'll be a devil's advocate today. I will represent some of the audience to go for the faceless brand.
The faceless
Yeah.
brand. I like the founder brand.
You like the founder
Yeah,
brand.
then we hear from Michelle.
Yeah. So I want to draw back to historically how brand has evolved over the years, right? Because in the past, you look at big brands like P&G, all their house brands underneath. You look at Coca-Cola, you look at Sprite. There wasn't a face. It was never founder driven.
Yeah.
But only in recent times, then we start to see a lot of small brands and even very viral, famous brands start to add a face to their brand, right? So there is this shift from faceless to founder-led brands today. Yeah. So maybe from Michelle at the more macro level, right? You being a strong advocate of founder-led brands, right? What do you think led to the trend or the rise of such a movement?
Okay. We use the ARC score to determine what works better, the faceless brands or the founder-led brands. What we see is actually on the familiarity score, the founder brands with their faces have about 2 to 3 times more. They score 2 to 3 times more on the familiarity signal.
Wow.
Right. So this is this is number one. It's such a strong reason to already start doing this. I mean, this is not just based on the ARC score, right? This is also backed by research. So there's this research in the 1950s. I think it's Horton and Rowe. So it's about when people see another person repeatedly. So this can be celebrities that you see on the movies, or you hear about people repeatedly. You have this like this one-sided relationship that forms. It's a parasocial relationship, right? So these people actually feel like they know you. So
Yeah.
when we use founder-led brands, we're actually building two things at the same time. Whereas we are building that familiarity, and we are building that memory, emotional connection. Because these people feel like they know you, they are friends with you, even when you've never met them. And that's why it's so powerful, right? So that's why I always say, a lot of people come to me, okay, can you do this without me on the camera? Can you do this without my face? Yes, you can, but you're going to be like 2 to 3 times slower than the person that's willing to put themselves out online as the face of the brand.
I mean, let's go a bit deeper on this, right? Because human is a form, right? It's a material object, right? But maybe at the deeper level, it's not so much of human being human or the face being the face, but it's the relevance and the relatability that people can draw with the brand because of the human. Yeah. I mean, at the immaterial level, what a founder brand can do versus a faceless one is talk more about their values, talk more about their ideology and approach, right? Which is very different from back in the days where brands, I wouldn't say they're more transactional, but they're more product focused, right? So would you say that there is this change in trend where it's no longer about the product? People are going into that brand because they want to find out more about the ideology behind the brand, the values, and the why. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we are seeing here is increasingly that trust that we have that we build with our audience will help us to equate the perception of the quality and the price.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's less so about the product more than ever, and more about the trust that we can build with our audience. Of course, down the line, when people actually experience the product, they will have another layer of experience on building that memory and the intent layer for the next time they purchase. But on the first instance, when we are looking at whether they actually move on, or whether they actually how they perceive the price, how they perceive the quality of the thing, it's really through that trust that we're building. So right now, I feel like we are in such a unique space, time in marketing like never before. It's been happening for a while, and I think it will continue to happen. It used to be, all these massive corporations, right? They don't need a face. They have access to these huge budgets. They have access to the media spaces. They have access to the production teams that require huge budgets. But what we're seeing is people are craving and looking for higher trust signals. And that's why founder-led brands really work very well, because you see somebody's face, you hear their story, you see what they stand for, their values, their principles. We tell that in a format of a story. People build an emotional connection so much faster than a faceless brand would, right? So all these bigger corporations, they no longer have that leverage of just having, that big ad spend, because we are in a space where the main media that people consume is social media, right? The TV ratings have been going down. Less and less people go to the movies. Less and less people watch TV.
Yeah.
And they are on their phones all the time. The number of hours people are spending on their phones, Instagram, TikTok, is increasing constantly every year, and including the user base. So
Yeah.
more people are on it, more people are spending more time on it. The businesses that want to reach people, they have to use these platforms. And it's free to play, almost free to play, right? All you have to do is post. So it almost levels the playing field, and it actually puts the smaller players at an advantage, because they have these stories that these bigger corporations don't have access to. They don't have a face they can use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're building connection so much faster. That's why you see individual creators, individual business owners, small business, medium business, they are building their followers so much faster than, a corporation that has been trying. They hired out an agency.
Yeah.
They do regular 3 times a week posting, and they get
3 times a
like
day.
3 times a day, all right, 20 likes after
Yeah.
all that effort.
Yeah.
Where your founder-led video is raw, authentic. They just show up, they share their values, and then people connect with that, and then they get curious about what they're building. If the intent ever comes up, right? So that down the line that leads into the intent, right? The mental availability, the physical ability. When these two aligns up, then that becomes revenue.
Yeah. So many points that I want to break down, right? Do you want to go first? You sound like it's
Yeah.
at the edge of your throat.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that actually I think one of the big reasons why it's shifted so much from product to founders is the big socio-economic change that the entire, I would say, macro environment is experiencing. I would say if we look back in the past when all the big brands were, like you say, P&G, for example, at that point in time, I think slightly different world that we can see. People are buying products for outcome. Right. But with the big shift, with the rising income level, the way that people experience life, right? I feel that they are moving towards, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. They're going towards higher tier.
Yeah.
So they're moving towards self-actualization, where there is ideals involved, where there's a philosophy of life, where that whatever that I am going for, I am actually going for more than just the product outcome. I'm going for what actually aligns with me as an individual. And then, of course, with the explosion of social media, and that kind of helps to accelerate everything.
Yeah. That's a very interesting thinking direction, right? Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
How we are now at the stage where people are looking for purpose. They are not looking for how to survive and have a rice bowl on the table, right? Very Asian. But they are looking for how do I find someone who is purposeful so I can role model after this person. And the way that they express themselves is purchasing their products or service. Yeah. So I would say, based on what you are saying, that is a layer of that trend that people are going for.
Yeah.
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 And it's very interesting, right? Because I want to talk about this line you said. You mentioned brand shapes the perception of the brand's product and quality. Yeah. And, it aligns back to your first point where you said that Michelle feels like a celebrity,
Yes.
right? Because it's that perception that's being shaped. So I want to go deeper into this thinking process, right? Because in the past, product quality, whether it's good or bad, you buy, you try, you test it, and then you have a conclusion. But now it's the other way around.
Yeah.
You build the brand, people form a perception first. Then they try the product and then they conclude later. Yeah. So do you see this shift in the consumer's thinking? Do you have any experience of your clients or maybe your own brand that they have this experience or they have this thinking process when they go to a brand?
Maybe just coming back to identity, right? So I think you made a really interesting point about how people use the products they buy as a representation of their identity. I think that's very true. And that's why it's really important for brands to also think about their positioning and what the villain is in their story. Okay? So for emotional connection to be built, right, we need one thing that we can do is define who the villain is. So maybe I'll give you an example for Apple. What they are for is creativity, and what
Yeah.
they're against is sameness, convention, right? That's why Steve Jobs put so much emphasis on design, on quality being completely different from whatever was in the market at the time, and people that aligned with those values, they proudly are Apple users, right?
So interesting, you said different, not better.
So they position it as better. Arguably it might be better. Depends on who you are. Yeah.
Actually, I would say from
Yeah.
a tech perspective, right, they
Yeah.
are not the best. Yeah. So, Dell, another brand. We're not having a wage of wars or
Yeah.
brand,
On,
right? But
on tech. Yeah.
yeah. But from the market perspective, many people associate Dell to be a lot more technical and a lot more adaptable in being able to create different versions, variations of desktop or specs, right?
Yeah.
But over here, Apple, actually their specs are very limited. And it's only connected in their own ecosystem. So actually there's more trouble, trying to use their products and service, right? But I realized the word that you used earlier was they're against sameness. So their quality is different, arguably better. Yeah, so that actually forms the perception,
Yeah.
which is going back to what we were saying, that the brand will form the perception of the product and quality, which then forms an identity. Do you see it in another example?
Yeah. I mean, another example would be a Patagonia. Right. So completely different product, but they have a very strong for and against. So the villain that they are fighting against is environmental abuse. And they have basically committed the entire company's mission for this. And the people that buy their products align with these values.
Yeah.
Right? They see themselves as supporters of this mission as well. So this is the way for them to be part of this movement.
So what is your villain in your brand?
So I think what I'm fighting for is really to go forward audaciously. Right. So this is my thing, putting
Yeah.
yourself out there, even if you're scared, even if you're not sure. But knowing that when you constantly do that, you're on the other side of growth. So whether this is when you're putting yourself out there to tell your story, whether you're putting yourself out there, going to another country to start a new venture, this is what I fight for. What I'm against is letting the world tell you who you should be and what you should do. Right? At the end of the day, you decide what you want, and you have to be brave enough to go forward for that.
Amazing. I mean, it actually actualized in your life plans, right? Like, literally moved to New York.
Honestly, sounds like something that a lot of Asians will gel with. That's
yeah,
very Asian
absolutely.
value of being kind of comfortable.
Or put in a box.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
listen to what your parents tell you. Yeah, life kind of pre-planned.
Yeah.
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 So curious, from a personal level, right? Did you choose the brand identity first, then decided to move to New York? Or you moved to New York, then realized, oh, that's what I am about?
I feel like I've always been trying to push myself, whether it's in business, whether it's in life, whether it's coming to a podcast, doing public speaking.
Yeah.
Like none of this feel comfortable to me yet. But I've always believed, like, if you keep doing that, you will keep growing and you'll grow very fast.
Amazing.
So I love growing, and
Yeah. Yeah. And it actually manifests in your own brand as well. How you had incredible growth from a few thousand followers all the way to 40K today. Amazing. In just 1 year?
So the real spike happened within the last few months when I actually decided, you know what, I'm going to be the face of the brand. Because I was also struggling, like all these founders.
Yeah.
They were hesitating, putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I decided, like, just a couple of months, I'm going to do the things that we do for our clients, right? So if I do it for clients, I should be the best example for myself. So I decided, just tell the stories, right? Not just
Yeah.
the educational content, but share the stories, show the vulnerable side, build that connection with people.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell that you are struggling because you look desperate in front of camera, right? So just share more with your
Yeah.
audience about your struggle and how you thought about it in the end, how you overcame it.
I have been thinking about it for a long time, about doing content, putting myself out there. It really clicked sometime last year where I decided this will not change. The fear will not go away. And if I do want to get over that, I just have to do it. Just do it and go in scared. I always use this analogy. I anything that's scary to me, I just imagine, like, okay, it's like going onto a roller coaster. Once you put the straps in, right, it means you
back,
make
yo.
the decision.
You are
Already.
in for the ride no matter what, right?
Yeah, you just have to go along for the ride. So even if you're scared, like you're lining up to get to that point where they strap you on, you're like, okay, you still can turn back now, but just keep going there. Then once you put it in, you can't run away. So you just have to commit.
Yeah. It's very interesting though, because another perspective that I've heard from a founder who tried, his perspective was that the growth of the business will be limited by him because he is the face and he's therefore now literally the bottleneck.
Yeah.
So what they tried was to remove him from the system. Well, not remove him totally operations wise, but remove his face from all the marketing, all the materials out there. And then they realized the business took a hit.
I mean, there is some considerations from a
Yes.
risk standpoint, right?
Correct.
Because what happens if for some reason, something happened to you and your reputation takes a hit?
Yeah.
Yeah, which will also affect your business.
Yeah.
Right. So in this scenario, what would you say to founders who are on the edge because they are afraid of this risk
Human risk,
association? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say founder-led storytelling is not the only way to grow a business. It is a really powerful way, and when used correctly, it can be amazing for a business in terms of the growth, the revenue, and everything. But the real way to look at content, growth, marketing, and everything is through this art framework that I've built, which is the familiarity, the memory, and the intent, right? What can we do to build those layers in if we need to remove the founder? So founder can build all three very fast. It's so potent, this founder story. But if we don't have access to this founder, or we want to remove this founder, what are the things that we can do? Right? Do we focus a lot on product perception? Do we focus more on making our products more available, easier to purchase? Having that strong memory intent when people actually think of needing something like that, you come to mind. So building that, then you can rely less on the founder. So when that is not built up, and then they decide, okay, you're going to just plug out the founder of this system, then you basically crumble the entire growth engine.
But
Right.
what's your thought then of perhaps using an ambassador? Because we've come across that before, right? Where
Duolingo is that better?
yeah, or you use a person, right? Another person that you hire as an ambassador. What's your viewpoint of that?
Yeah. So I think those can work, right? So it's all about building those three up together. So the thing is, this founder-led content is not the only. It's a really, really powerful way. It's a shortcut way to do that.
The easier way.
The easier way to do that. But if you don't have access to that, there are other ways to plug in. So we can use mascots. Duolingo uses their mascots. There are companies that use, influencers, KOLs to be the face of the brands. So those are also signals for both familiarity and emotion, because you're leveraging on these people's trust and connection they already have with the audience.
Yeah.
And you're putting association with your brand to this persona.
Yeah.
Ryanair comes to mind.
Ryan Air is
Yeah,
not-
yeah. Yeah.
Just the eyes, right?
Yeah.
The airplane.
Yeah, so I guess in a sense, you can also explore different ways to represent or take over the founder's position. lah.
Yeah. I mean, just like Presto Diaries, when I look at the whole series, there is the Ama that was there for many years, and he was one of the oldest employee. And then there's the wife also. And then there are some people behind the scenes that you feature as well. So I guess that's a way to plug in familiarity, memory, and intent. Right? And the familiarity being nostalgia grandma, or that grandma that always irons your clothes for you, always care for you in all these little ways. Yeah, that can be done. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to share a story also. It's quite insane. Recently, I saw this on Facebook Reel. It's a China trend where they call this group of celebrities or creators the Chang 二代.
Okay.
So Chang for factory, 广场嘛, factory, 二代 second gen. So there's a speculation going on because you see all these videos of beautiful young looking people who are representing the second gen of the family business, and then they started doing dances, and they call themselves like the napkin princess for a factory in China that produced a lot of napkins. They also call kitchen princess. So they sell kitchen appliances, right? But it's represented by a very young, very nice looking lady or man, right? And they look like idols, that level of a celebrity look. So it's quite interesting when you talk about this familiarity, memory, and intent, because I recall this story and I realized why is it a little bit more controversial. So you can put a face on the brand, but if the memory and intent is not staged correctly, there's some controversy involved in there. So a lot of people are expecting, because they do dances, right? They look so cute, right? Very unlike a factory boss persona.
Is there a
So-
boss persona for that?
So they start to have questions. Hey, are they really the second gen? Or are they actually hired by the business owner? Yeah, so that really brings across the reason why there's some level of controversy. So when I seen on your brands and your clients doing storytelling, I find that the level of intent, the level of memory makes it a very good match to the brand. There's no dissonance about it. Right, but in this case, on the other hand, of this Chang 二代, right, there's a very big dissonance because it feels staged. Yeah, so in your understanding of these two examples, right, what do you think led to that dissonance in identity? using the memory and intent thinking.
Yeah. I think for the case of the example that you shared with me, the format they're hacking or optimizing for is the views and impressions. So they want to get like a really pretty face, right? They want to impress people with the beauty, their wealth. That gets attention, right? But then we look back at the product that they're building. Are we building a connection back to that product and showing that what they are doing actually is good? Is this something that when people think about, are you relating back to the person that's representing to the brand? So that's why there is that disconnection between the person that's fronting the brand and the brand.
Yeah.
So with massive virality and exposure, you might actually like trickle down into some sales
Yeah.
that people, okay, if they are in need for something like that, then they go down the rabbit hole and they find out more about you, and they realize, okay, maybe this is something that I can do. But then that's a long connection for people to make. So whereas the storytelling that we are doing with the second gens over here, we are using the storytelling format in all three formats, where we have these founders, these characters constantly appear. So we're building that parasocial relationship with the audience and them.
Yeah.
So they feel like they know them. And on the other hand, we also constantly seed the signals of competence, right? They are not just here to just take over. They
Or
actually
do
want
dances
to,
in front
yeah,
of
or do dances. They are actually here to level up the business in terms of how they deliver the service to the customers, the quality, the systems that they are building, and how can they not just take over what's happening, but make it better.
Yeah.
So in the documentation of that process, we are actually showcasing to people that, hey, this is not just an emotional part of what we do, but here is also why we are really good at what we do and why you should trust us with whenever you have this need.
Yeah.
This thing about signals of competence is such a strong one. The interesting thing is, if we look at ads that are going out,
Yeah.
most of the time we only focus on this actually.
Competence.
Yeah, because it's my product is better, my service is better, my this is better, we are doing this
Here's
better.
why my
right?
approach is great.
Yeah, but this signal of competence also needs to be built in the social or in the videos that
In
we
the
are building
emotions.
in an emotional way, and it doesn't feel so in your face.
Yeah.
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 And I think that's possibly a lot of things that's missing in all the more tactical
Yeah.
approaches.
Like the ambassador dancing in front of factory, I suppose.
Yeah.
So in your online class, right, your story art class, you always say that whatever story you try to put out there, it has to always lead back to competence, the idea of competence, which answers a lot of questions that founders have. What part of my story should I post online? Does it matter if I say that, talk about my childhood story? Does it matter if I talk about my cancer story? What part of it actually should go online? Right? So over here, you are saying that as long as the story builds some emotional resonance and also lead to the competence layer, that's the story you want to pick up. Yeah. Do you have some thinking or examples around this?
Just to come back to what we show people in regards with the competence, right? Because in the world of paid ads, there are like bullet points of USPs. Okay, this. The number one, it's been saturated in the market. People have seen the same thing. The trust level of this type of ads have gone down because they see it all the time. They don't know whether it's true or false anymore. Whereas when we use the story and we show the process of how this is being built up, so we don't just say, okay, here is why, this is what my product has, this is point A, point B, point C, but how do we actually, number one, decide that these are the things that are important that we should include in these products? How do we get there? How do we build the competence of creating those qualities in our product? That story of how it happened, then people get, okay, yeah, this is not just, lip service. This is things that has been worked on. These people know what they're doing. They have done a lot of research in this, and they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, we have to remember, right? Yes, building the emotional connection is really important, but we also need to be able to understand why we are telling those stories. It's not just, oh yes, I somebody, I broke my foot. when I was primary two. That story doesn't lead anywhere.
Form of expression
Right.
versus
Right.
intentional.
And I still remember it to this
objective.
day. This story is not going to do anything for the business.
Unless you're
Yeah.
selling a bicycle for people
Unless you're
that
selling
do-
a bicycle,
Yeah,
and then you create a product that fixes that problem.
Yeah.
Then yes, share that story. But I mean, if it doesn't lead to some kind of like a build up competence, I'll say to look what the objective of the point of creating this piece of content is. So if you do have a strong objective of what you're trying, what the message is, then what are the stories you can identify in your life that help you to lead to this point where you came to this conclusion that this is
Yeah.
important, that this is how I came to this.
Yeah. I feel we're unlocking the secrets of how creators can monetize better. Because the idea here is a lot of creators, they monetize by doing sponsors, right? Sponsors for brands, they sell their products and service, right? And sometimes it affects the reputation.
Yeah.
Because when a creator start to sell all sorts of things, then people will think that, hey, this creator sold out, Everything also want to sell and monetize the audience, right?
Yeah.
But the way that you're saying it is that they can share based on a story that leads to their competence for the product. So if I were a creator today, right, and have millions of following, what I'll do is I'll choose brands where my story can add to that competence layer. And that gives me authority on why I choose to advocate the brand product in the first place, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, adding on that, it also shows exactly how we should choose. Because one of the things that I've come across from some of the very cringe-worthy ones are the let's go for your sob story. I'm like, what do you mean?
I remember at one point in time in Singapore, right, we start hearing a lot of cancer stories on
yeah, man.
Then people start to
Everyone,
doubt, is that
and
real?
we're like,
or,
why
you
is
know?
there so many people with cancer today or sharing on social media?
Yeah.
Not saying that is not an issue, but it doesn't relate to the competence layer. And that's why when we, as a potential client, watch it, it feels very cringe in a certain way. And it doesn't add to why should I buy from
Yeah.
you in that sense.
So I think it comes back to why are we sharing that story, right? Are we sharing a story that happened to us to capitalize on people's emotional vulnerability, or are we here to really build connection?
Yeah.
And I feel like when we develop a sense of kind of like sensing who is performative and who is being genuine, and it is really hard to come across genuine when you have you're being performative, right? So people have like we don't know why, but we get a sense, and
smell it.
you can smell it, right? It's just in our DNA. We can smell when people are lying, when people are being ingenuine.
Or
So
manipulative.
yeah, so I would say like use those stories, like be real with it. You're not being performative. Like these are all real things that happen. Don't make it up. And it should all be true. Like it should all be like connected to why you're doing what you're doing, your like mission, your vision, the thing that you are trying to help in this world, right?
I think to summarize, we were talking about founder-led brands and how some founder persona online feels like it's either it generated a lot of controversy or it generated a lot of haters because there is that dissonance of intent. So what you're saying as the intent, sometimes it can be manipulative, sometimes it can be performative, but sometimes it can be genuine. And when you hit the right notes, you share a genuine story that adds to your layer of competence, that's where you get what I will call the X factor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So if we look at business gurus or very well-known businessmen in the US especially, you look at Elon Musk representing Tesla,
Yeah.
look at Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs representing Apple.
Yeah.
The reason why their founder-led brands are so mega successful, which led to their revenue, especially when Steve Jobs comes on stage to share the new Apple launch, right?
Yeah.
Is so successful because they have the right combination of familiarity,
Yeah.
story, leading to the right memory and intent.
Yeah. So I think the X factor really comes in when we have a very strongly defined villain in the story. So when we talk about Steve Jobs, the main message that he's sharing is not we make good products. It is we are against this. We are fighting for that. Like we are fighting for, having that amazing quality, creativity, and against, the sameness.
Yeah.
So having a really strong villain in your story makes it more memorable, and it builds that memory and increases the memory score and the memory signal on
Yeah.
the arc framework. So when we think about telling those stories, right, the first thing I will encourage people to do is like look at what is it that you're fighting for. Of course, the point of creating a business is to earn money, right?
Yeah.
Nobody starts a business wanting to lose money. Then it's not a good business. So, but there usually is a bigger purpose of why people start what they do,
Yeah.
right? It is to serve something. The format of the business is really so that they can help to do that.
Yeah.
So what is coming back to that vision and the purpose, like helps you to define who are you fighting against? What are you fighting for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about the founder versus faceless, I feel
Yeah.
that this debate is almost irrelevant because whether you're founder led or you're faceless, the same thing can
yes.
go. You can still portray the identity, whether it's in the form of a mascot, whether it's in the form of your employees,
Yes.
whether it's a form of the red panda on your shoulder. It's about the portrayal of the identity, right, for your brand, and
Which-
that is what builds it.
Yeah, which I think then lends itself more towards what's your business mission, vision, and values. Yeah, which is the overarching, meaning that second gen, even if you're second gen, you are not the founder, but someone taking over the business, for example.
Yeah.
Those mission, vision, values can also be seen through you, through your own stories. I
Yeah.
guess that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we started the podcast Man on a Mission as well.
Yeah.
Because we are looking to give a platform to help mission driven founders. And we are against exploitative businesses. That means businesses that just come in, whack the market, capitalize, take all the money and buy a condo. So that's what we're against. Yeah, so
Not the buying a condo
That's very
part, but
specific.
I'm just naming examples, not particularly. And
not the buying a condo part. We are not against buying a condo.
I almost said buying a GCB, but okay. Okay, I think that was a great summary for founder versus faceless. Okay, great. So let's talk about the last part, which is a consideration for a lot of businesses, right? Should I focus on organic or should I go into paid ads?
My recommendation is not one over the other. So I know that we focus a lot on organic storytelling and we are champions for that, but it's not to demonize the other side of that, which is paid. Where what paid can do is also very powerful. It can turn something that's already working and amplify that to another level. In the same lens of looking at virality, when something is working and you have the great foundation over there, and you put paid on top of that, it helps you to amplify that to a more magnified degree. So how would I think about it is really getting organic right first, having strong pieces of content that have helped you build the familiarity, the memory, and the intent layers. Once you know that it's worked organically, that's when you know people actually want to watch that video, and then you know that it also has a strong foundation, and then this is the best pieces of content to put ad spend on, right? Paid ads on, and then it can work together with your business. And then when people are already familiar with your business, and then when you serve them more ads, they would have already seen that. So that layer of memory has also been built. So the intent, the layer is stronger, because down the line when you've already built that trust, just being available for them and having that brand recall when that need arises, it turns into a conversion.
Maybe I will also add on to refine or define the question a little bit more. For business owners particularly, in terms of their business, the stage of business,
Yeah.
when should they do what first? Because I mean, the constraints here as business owners, you have, especially when
Time.
you're starting up, right?
Yeah.
You have limited time, you have limited money, you
Yeah.
have limited manpower. Basically, you are limited in almost
Everything.
everything, right? So what should I focus on? What takes priority? When do I build what? Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, whether you're a small, medium, or a large business, those limitations will always be around. And knowing where to spend your resources is really important. So, how I think about it is, I always want to think about whether I can build all those 3 layers in the most effective way, in the fastest way, the most resourced way. So if storytelling is the way for us to do that and we have limited money to spend on ads, then you focus more on storytelling. But then if you have excess budget where you can actually amplify that to a different degree, then we can focus on content, organic content that works, even the different layers of building the memory and intent layers that might even just sit outside of content, and then focusing maybe even on viral content. So it depends on where what access they have to their business. And at any point of a business and the stage and the budget, it helps you to decide, okay, yes, this is my budget. With this budget, how is the best way I can build this triangle up?
And the triangle, you mean familiarity, memory, and intent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And adding on to that question, right, is there any consideration to quote unquote the ROI? Yeah, when you're thinking about how this is going. Because one of the debate I think with organic versus paid is the quote unquote speed of returns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you see that?
Okay. Actually, over the last 10 years, the customer acquisition cost has gone up by 222%. So for every dollar you spend, you're actually getting half of what you used to get.
Wow.
So this is dramatically, like, things are changing in the landscape. If people are experiencing this, you're not crazy. This is happening to everyone. And also on the other end of it, organic converts to about 14%, whereas paid usually converts about 1%. Okay. So this is almost like a 14 times difference in terms of the conversion rate.
Wow.
So just thinking about this, right, where your ad spend is as high as it's ever been and will continue to increase, and people are struggling with that. Like what used to work for them doesn't work for them anymore. Then you have to start thinking, okay, I need to start thinking about organic channels now, because I've just been spraying and praying this ads has been making me money. The same things that used to work doesn't work anymore. So we need to start layering in that trust to organic, building the intent and memory layers with organic. And usually organic is so much stronger at doing those. That's why the conversion rate is higher.
Yeah. I want to say here, it almost feels like paid ads ambassador and but I know both of you personally in your approach to marketing, right?
Yeah.
But it never felt like I'm choosing between organic paid ads. I'm
Yeah.
choosing between storytelling versus something more transactional.
Yeah.
There was never this consideration.
Yeah.
So I will address what a lot of business owners, their misunderstanding towards choosing an approach.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times they'll think, oh, I am the organic cam. Oh, I'm the paid ads cam and I
Yeah.
only do paid ads. But
Yeah.
what I know from both of you, you actually do both, right? So Michelle, you also had your growth agency in the past that does paid ads.
Yeah.
Right? And Adeline, when you do paid ads, you always think about the awareness layer.
Yeah.
How do I tell the story
Advocate
first? How
for
do I advocate a movement first
Yeah.
before I do a more direct return kind of campaign, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe Adeline, you want to share your thinking behind this?
So firstly, coming from a paid ads agency issue, right, is obviously if you're speaking to a paid ads person, the paid ads person will not be discussing with you organic.
Yeah.
That does not mean that the person doesn't consider that, but the job role, the intent of the person there is to help you on the paid ads. So that is in itself the reason why it feels like there is two camps, because their job roles are just in a sense different or siloed apart, right? But when you look at marketing as a whole, then I do not think that it's either one, but a lot of principles that exist in organic should be applied in paid. And I also see paid ads in a way where I think that there is amplification effect. And you are also doing the same thing, which is whenever there's something organic that goes viral, like what Michelle has mentioned, right? Taking that same thing, which people already like, and then putting the spotlight on it just makes it more visible. Right? There is a reason why paid ad exists, mostly because of algorithms also in the platforms where they are trying to monetize, therefore trying to show ads.
Slots lah.
Yeah, in a certain way. So to me, sometimes if you have the budget to be able to kickstart certain things, taking the principles of how to create the story brand, and then using some level of budget to show it to different audience and test at speed, right? Because perhaps time is your limiting factor.
Yeah.
Then that has its value.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more about understanding the business stage, the constraints, the resources at hand, and what is the outcome, the real outcome that we're going for. Are we testing?
Yeah.
Are we going for straight conversions? Are we building, like you say, the movement or the awareness first, the familiarity with the brand, and then going for conversions? Because different businesses, the way they function are different. Some businesses cannot or do not have the luxury of time, I think, to wait for something to happen, quote unquote. So then the natural progression is to speed it up with resources, other resources that you have that is not time. Yeah, so then it's more of a consideration of all these limitations, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're saying here, the keywords that I'm spotting is precision and a more targeted approach. Right. So in the case of a business owner, if let's say they precisely say, I am going into the Australia market. Right. But obviously your organic content might resonate with everyone all over the world. And maybe the Australia group that resonated with you is slightly smaller. So you want to use that viral video to target specifically the Australian market.
Yep.
So that your plans and your resources going in can be the best
Managed,
leverage.
yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts you have? Because you used to run paid ads, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to running paid ads at all. Actually, I do encourage it, especially when we have something that works organically well. So far, even for my business, we have not done the paid ads yet because we haven't had the need to do it. But down the line, I'm not opposed to it, right? If we need to ramp up, we need to scale
Yeah.
our team like 10 times. Having paid is really great strategy because we already do have pieces of organic content that's working. So how I see is organic is a way for us to see whether a piece of content is validated. And then we are using that validations. Once we have that validated, we are scaling that. So I actually think it's quite irresponsible for brands, agencies to put a lot of money on a piece of content that's not validated yet. Right? If you're testing, that's fine. But if you're actually using that to scale when the piece of content has not been validated, you're basically forcing people to look at a piece of content that they don't want to see. Right? But on the other hand, when you've already validated it, you're basically showing it to more people. Maybe the algorithm, it has its limitations.
Yeah.
But when we see that this video has outperformed in certain signals, then we put ad spend onto that. Let's say if you want to target a specific market, that's a great way to use that content.
So you talk about signals, right? To see if it's validated. So what are the exact signals we are looking for?
So signals. So this is depends on what the objective is, right? So if it's sales, if you want direct sales that comes out of it, and if it's a fairly new brand, then we need to make sure that the piece of content builds all the three signals, which is the familiarity, the memory, and the intent signals. So does this piece of content help score highly on all three, right? And then the main signals that we look at to see whether organically does this already perform. These are the views. These are the follows.
Yeah, and I suppose the intent is the number of appointments you get, number of sales appointments, right?
Yeah. So other people reaching out to you when they see this video, do you get the exact messages that you were intended to receive? Like if you're a service provider, are people reaching out to you from that video and saying, hey, is this something that you can do for me?
Wow. Okay. And you mentioned, Michelle, that your business at this point in time completely organic. So would you mind sharing what's the revenue you hit, even if it's a range, not the exact revenue? Put in a spot here.
Okay, so so we did a hard pivot last year where we decided, we are going to close the growth agency model and we're going to focus all in on this storytelling model. So it was initially a really big risk. I mean, you're saying no to everything else that we've already been doing, and we've built up a 7-figure agency with that old model, and we decided, okay, no, we're just going
Yeah.
to focus on this. But the reason that happened and the reason why I don't necessarily see that as risky is because we were getting really strong signals from the market. We were getting people. So a couple pieces of my videos about clients, even for my own story, went viral. And almost overnight, we got like hundreds of people reaching out directly for the service. Right? This is
Wow.
not just people like, hey, I like your video, right? These
Yeah.
are people like, hey, can you do this for my business?
Wow.
This is something that I've been thinking about, but I don't have the skill sets, I don't have the team. Like, can we get on a call?
Yeah.
So like overnight, it blew up into like hundreds. So at this point of time, my team is basically maxed out or constantly near maxed out in capacity. Where
Yeah.
we always have work that's coming in, new inquiries coming in every day. So there's not a problem that we need to solve right now. It's more of like building up the capacity on the team side to meet that demand.
Yeah.
Right? That's also why I decided to create the boot camp, because I also realized that the done for you service might not be suitable for everybody, especially if they're smaller budgets, but they also know that this is super important, but they don't have the framework, they don't have the skill sets, or they're not natural storytellers. How do we put this in the hands of people? Because I've seen how it's grown my business, I've seen how it's grown my client's business, and I know that this is not just it's not something that is like an innate talent, right? This is something I had to develop the framework,
Yeah.
to train my team, and I know I can train other people also. So that's why the boot camp came about. It's a learnable skill. Storytelling is a learnable skill.
Amazing. 100 appointments. How much do you have to,
More than 100.
how much do you have to
Hundreds
budget?
are in S
Yeah.
with an S.
Yeah, if
hundreds,
you are
yeah.
doing 100% on ads, right? What would
Yeah.
be the budget that you have to spend to get this 100
I
appointments?
have no idea. It must be a lot, but I don't
Adeline, would
have,
you
I don't have
give
the
some rough
specific
gauge?
number in mind.
Well, I
you tell
think,
me.
I mean, if we are talking about 100 appointments,
Yeah.
let me do the conversion now.
This is not just 100
Yeah.
leads and
Yeah.
calls. This
It's
is
people.
high
Yeah,
quality
high
leads
quality
with high
conversion.
intent to buy.
Yeah,
is the
so we are talking about 100 times 100, 30,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
if we are
a-
talking about 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
we got a few hundreds.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Storytelling.
Few hundreds, which makes it 100K.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, just to kind of let you know, like, this is based on not like hard. I'm not posting every day, right? I'm
Yeah.
posting less than once a week,
Wow.
and this is the impact that it's gotten. Yeah. So that's why I'm a firm like champion of like firm believer on storytelling.
Yeah.
If you have especially if you have limited resources, or even if you have a lot of resources, right? Like, this is such a powerful tool because it builds that triangle so nicely for you,
Yeah.
of building both like familiarity, the memory, and the intent all together at once.
Yeah. And I believe it transformed many of your clients' businesses as well, right? Could you share some examples of how it has transformed them?
Yeah. So we also have been working with a very niche brand. This is a plus size women's wear brand. Altwine, Wensi is a great client of ours. So we started doing this storytelling format for her, where we build out her series. So on average now, the series episodes gets about close to 200 to 20,000
Wow.
video views,
That's insane.
compared to the views that she used to get. So this goes between like a few hundred to 6,000 views. So the impact is so much. And it's not just about the views, right? It's also about the memory that's being built in that, and the intent that we create for buying. So don't have the specific numbers for how much her business is growing, but I know that this is her busiest season yet. So Chinese New Year is
Wow.
typically her busiest time of the year.
Yep.
And she is basically
Swamped.
so this is the busiest
Exploded.
Chinese New Year she's had
Wow.
since her business started.
That's great. Wow.
And her business has been around for 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
10 years.
Oh, 10 years.
10 years.
Busiest ever and first time in 10 years.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's not just about, like, we've seen it in the comments, like people like pouring their heart and showing like how the business has changed their life, how they see themselves. You know, that feeling of confidence when you actually find something that you feel like you look good in. Like, that's something to somebody's confidence and how how they see themselves.
Yeah. Totally changed their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned that storytelling is a learnable skill.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you share with the audience a little bit more about that?
Yeah, because I never saw myself as a storyteller. So I feel like eloquence is not one of my top skill set, I had to find a way to create a framework so that I could do this. You know how there are some people when they are just telling a very simple story, they can be so charismatic, they're like so emotional, and you're like, wow, this is a simple story, but the way you tell it is amazing, right? I've never been one of those people. I'm still not. So what I had to do is like I had to go and learn it, right? Just like any other skill. So if you want to pick up golf, you want to pick up tennis, you want to pick up, crocheting, like those are stuff that you will not be good at the start, but if you put in the hours, the reps in every day, you will get better. So I saw storytelling the same way, putting the time, intentional effort into it. So I spoke to storytelling creators from all around the world.
Wow.
I studied scripts and figure out why they work, why some scripts didn't land, why some scripts went viral. I created my own framework. So I to do it repeatedly, and then I train my team to do this with my clients. Tested this on myself also. So what I realized is it is 100% learnable. There are some principles that we have to understand. So I mean, part of it is the 5-part arc structure. Right, this is not something that I created, but this is something that has been used for different formats of storytelling, whether it's movies, whether it's series, whether it's books. It has this 5-part arc structure where it starts with the hook, the setup, the rising action, the climax, and then the resolution. Right. So what we're doing is repurposing in this format and also creating the framework so that we can repeatedly do this.
I mean, talk about script writing, which is an interesting topic, right? It's really a
Yeah.
craft.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've seen movies, right? Talk about the script,
The
right? And there's
plots,
the plots, and then we always like to study the plots, the
Yeah.
7 plots of movie making, right?
Yeah.
So that's very fascinating to us. So why can't ChatGPT replicate this?
Yeah. The thing about ChatGPT, it's a great tool, right? I see it almost like a knife. It's a tool. The thing that makes stories really engaging and emotional and builds all that trust and connection is really through the nuances and the context. So chat won't be able to, number one, identify what they are if you don't give it that context.
Yeah, they're the weakest in context.
Yeah. So the challenge, the reason why some people use chat and they don't do well, and there are also people that use chat and they do
very
well.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's because you know how to prompt it so that you give it the right context to build up the story for you. Right. So the challenge is really like deciding what is the nuances to go in. And there's a decision for the storyteller.
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to using chat or AI for that matter, right, it's rubbish in, rubbish out. And I feel that the biggest thing, we discussed this before as well, the biggest thing that I think chat or AI will never be able to replicate is human experience, which is like what you say, your own lived experience, what you feel at that point in time, and how that inspired you or changed you. That's something that is not a language model in that sense,
Yeah.
literally, and therefore not a thing that AI can experience and then craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Michelle, I'm very inspired by what you shared today as storytelling. I'm doing some form of it by learning from you, but I feel that it's only 1%, right? So for a business owner that really want to get started on this storytelling journey, how do they get started? Like, what are the exact steps do you create first to lead to that storytelling outcome?
Yeah. I think the first thing you need to think about is, before you even start writing your stories, is what are you for and against? Like, what is the villain in your story? When you have a very clear villain, your narrative becomes clearer. So you will know what you need to talk about and what is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right? When you have this defined villain. Once we have that, then we can get into formatting. So formatting is really it's just a vehicle for us to move the story forward. It's not the most important thing. At the end of the day, the core of the story is the story.
Yeah.
Right. So once you have an understanding of who you are for, what you're fighting against, and then you know your arc, then you know the formatting, and then you can start writing.
I want to go deeper into that, right? So you're saying for against, when does the familiarity and the memory intent come in? When do you start to decide that?
The memory and intent comes together when we're putting the story together. So when we have a very strong villain that we're fighting against, what we're doing is finding other people that also resonate fighting against this.
Oh, okay.
So that builds that memory. Familiarity comes when people start seeing you repeatedly. So when they see you once, your memory score might not be super high yet. But when they see 10 of your videos and they all tell an engaging story that they actually want to watch and they care about and they resonate with the mission or they resonate with the fight you're in. Right? So this builds that connection, and then eventually when the need arises for that particular thing that you're providing, then the intent comes in.
So by memory, you also created this thing called the Netflix style series. Yeah, could you share a little bit more about how does that help to build that memory?
Yep. So this is a signature series. So we don't just want to tell individual stories. So the way the studio works, the story arc studio works is that we don't just tell individual stories. We tell this in a format of a season. So the same way where TV series are formed, like and Netflix series are formed,
Yeah.
there is a season where it is a container for what's happening within that business. So depending on the type of business, whether they're in the expansion season, whether they are in the pivot season, whether they are, in the crisis season, that informs what this season is about. So there is still a continuation. We use both continuity and narrative to give a reason for people to keep watching. So this builds both the familiarity part and the memory part really strongly.
So you're saying that you might not get the one hit wonder in your first video, but over time, as you show up more in your series, that's where you have that compounding effect.
Yeah. So the compounding effect is what we want to aim for, because it's not just about the one-off videos. When people see that one-off videos, the brand recall might not be there yet. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think there's a study that says, like, if there's no emotional connection form, when people see a video, even if it's a viral video, they might actually forget your brand half the time after the day is over. So that's like a drastic fall of your familiarity score.
I see.
Okay, so what we are doing with this continued storytelling, where we have a plot that we are following, this arc that we're also following throughout the season, is that we are giving people a reason to keep following, to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Right? There's a mini story that happens every episode, but there's a goal that we're working towards. So what is that goal? Do we achieve that goal or not? That builds suspense. That gives people a reason to follow.
Wow.
Oh, so like a standalone with a drama overall arc with perhaps an ultimate villain at the end kind of
Yeah.
feeling.
So there will be a villain throughout the entire
Yeah.
series. So
Yeah.
people will understand, okay,
Yeah.
this is the fight.
Wow, amazing. Very insightful.
Yes.
So where can we access you mentioned you have a measurement tool, right? What is it called?
So it's the arc score. So it's for people to understand where they sit within what they are doing now and how their content has run for in the last 30 days. So they can use this arc score to determine how their familiarity score is doing, how their memory score, how their intent score is doing. So it is on my website, michellelohorton.com.
Oh, nice.
Okay, we'll put it
Yeah,
in
we'll
the
put it in the link.
description.
So if you're interested to find out more about your ARC score,
Yeah.
please go ahead and click on the link.
Yes.
Okay, great. Wow. That was amazing.
Yes.
do you
I've
think?
learned a lot as well,
Yeah.
I think.
Nice.
I'm going to look at my villain right now.
Yeah.
My for and villain, have clarity
Yeah.
over that, and then use the ARC score
Yeah.
to see where I am.
Yes.
Because I believe that once you got your score, then you know what are the solutions you can adapt, right, to improve the scores for that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
amazing.
It's really important. The villain part, I think this is something that people underestimate. And I think some people, they've tried it themselves, and when it doesn't land, they're like, oh, I'm doing this storytelling thing, but it doesn't work. But when we look deeper into the stories that they're telling, right, it feels flat. There are many ways that we can diagnose this. Part of it usually is because the villain is not defined strongly enough. Even if it's defined, right, it may be defined in a way where they are the only people that care about it. Then that's also very dangerous. Means no one else can resonate with the same fight,
Yeah.
right? So if we come back to Patagonia, Apple, these are brands with really strong villains, and a lot of people are also like aligned with this.
Yeah.
They care for the environment.
Yeah.
Whether they act on it or not is a different story, but they actually align with the values. And then for like Apple. It is, like the fight for against sameness, right?
Yeah.
These people want to fight for creativity. They want to be different, right? That's why this resonates with a large number of people. So the villain that we define needs to resonate. You cannot be the only one that cares about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I align with this so much with my favorite anime,
What's that?
Demon Slayer.
Oh, you have a favorite anime. Amazing.
Well, with Demon Slayer, one of the reason why I think it's such a strong one is because every villain is so well designed. Like you can understand, and there is someone that you can resonate like with that particular villain also. Yeah, so you can resonate with that.
Which
that
villain do you
particular-
resonate with?
I mean, I can totally understand those where there's a loss that trigger vengeance and stuff like that. So I think that villain, because it stands out so strongly and you can understand it so well, that it becomes such a strong emotional resonance there.
Amazing.